So y'all know Noah Scaldo. You might know Mark Scaldo and Cody Scaldo. We got almost the whole clan
The
here.
whole clan, we missed one.
Yeah. So thanks for being here, everybody. I know it's a tough time. We're missing a lot of people because of trips we're taking, summertime, vacation type stuff going on. But with this compact room, I think we're doing just fine. So thanks for being here. How many of you were here the last time Noah played for us? We had quite a few. Yeah, good. Well, today's the after. That was the before. And we're really happy to have him. He's been spending a few years in Cologne, Germany, and he'll tell you a little bit more about that. Cologne, I'm not talking about his aftershave, it's actually a town. So, come on up, Noah. Tell us about what you've been up to.
Okay. We gotta speak into the mic, or is it good here? Are we good here?
Yeah. That'll be for when you.
Oh yeah, for the play. Okay.
Just a few questions before we get started. Tell us about your experience. And I know we talked a little bit about this before, but what is it that inspired you to go to this particular school? And tell us, it was the Institute of Music and Dance, or
Yes.
yeah,
It's the College for Music, or the Conservatory for Music and Dance in Cologne, Germany. And so it's been a pretty crazy 4 years. So I'm just finishing up my bachelor's in music this year, and I think the inspiration for me, to start, I think it was a combination of things. Music has always been a big part of my life, right? Mm-hmm. So I started with violin when I was 5, and then I started playing mandolin a little bit later, around when I was 12, and so I've always really enjoyed playing music, and I've always really enjoyed performing for other people and sharing it with other people, and so I really wanted to develop that skill further. I think that's the main draw. That was the main draw to really consider going to conservatory, which I was thinking about in high school when I was kind of figuring that out, and then. It was after COVID, or it was kind of during COVID that I was doing this planning process and kind of really considering it. I think I was a junior in high school, and then I had spoken to my teacher about it, and he had really given me the idea. He said, there's this one conservatory here that makes sense if you want to study, because it's you're going to get like an accredited degree from it, and you get to actually play mandolin. And that's important because there are other mandolin schools in Europe, but this is the only one where you can get a bachelor's in music. The other ones you get like a performance diploma or something like that, and that's not the same thing. It doesn't carry over the same way when I want to come back to America. So those were the options that he gave me, and then we decided our plan was just to work towards a repertoire for the audition, which was, as a junior, was about a year and a half out, because I did it it might have been a year, so I did it the following year. So I had a year to prepare for the audition, what program we were going to play, and things like that. And then he put me in contact with Professor Katarina Lichtenberg, who runs the mandolin program there. And so we just continued down the process, and I was like, I can apply to other schools, and I could go to school here in America, and I can get a degree that I'm not really sure I want to get, and just kind of get something generic, or study music here, but there's no place to study mandolin, so I'm not going to be studying mandolin. So it was either that, or it's go to this amazing mandolin program where there's nothing like it anywhere here or even in Europe, quite frankly. So that was the thought process, and finally I just decided, I'm just going to spend all the time and work on the audition. And if I audition, if I get in, then that's what I'm going to pursue.
Can I add something?
Sure.
So the school has the only endowed chair for the mandolin in Europe. So, and the technical proficiency that they teach is something that his professor at the time thought he should pursue. Because there's probably no better place to technically learn those skills than at that school.
Yeah, we should make that clear that it's like the best place to study mandolin in the world, because it's such a small community of players. That's where the best professor is. That's where, in Germany, that's where the mandolin community exists in the entirety of Europe.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. Well, can we relate this a little bit to how does that fit in with your faith journey?
Yeah, I mean,
did you feel like that? Obviously we're given gifts.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I feel like I've obviously been gifted with this ability to play music in a way, and I really want to share that with people. And obviously I feel it's connected to my faith, because I just, either when I'm listening to music or when I'm playing, I feel a deep connection to the spiritual realm, to God, and I really do see that connection. Maybe other people don't see it as well as I do. And so my attempt when I do play for people is to show them that beauty, that inherent beauty, which reflects God's beauty, obviously, when I play, right? And so,
Do you think that it has been enhanced by the technical proficiency that you've gained?
I would say definitely. Yeah, it definitely gives me a better ability to express that beauty when I feel more comfortable in how I can play and my technical ability to play, for sure. Definitely,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What did you, before you went over to Germany to study, and somebody would ask you maybe to perform or whatever, did you get kind of anxious prior to
I think,
performance?
I think like many musicians, yeah, obviously I'm not someone who doesn't get anxious necessarily before a concert, or before, especially if it's like a big crowd. I had an experience of playing before the biggest crowd I've ever played in. Actually, was in this semester. That we had this big festival, and I got to play a solo repertoire. So I played 3 pieces for an entire concert hall, which were probably over 1,000 people there, and so it was a great experience for me to kind of realize that I don't have to take myself so seriously, and I should just be focusing on myself. But it's not easy, and to be honest, I was not worried before I went up there, and then the moment I got on stage and saw all these people, I was like, whoa! It just kind of hit me, and I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of people. So I definitely still do get nervous sometimes, but it's gotten a lot more as I've gotten confident in my playing.
Yeah.
I don't feel the same insecurity, or I don't feel the same. I feel more sure of myself, I guess.
So
that's
it's like
the development I've noticed.
Yeah, once you start playing, that technical proficiency takes over, and then you can just kind of enjoy yourself.
Exactly. Then you don't have to focus so much on thinking about every note and every run. You kind of just
it just flows.
and you get lost in the music, and that's
so
the
cool.
best part for me. Yeah.
Well, I could ask questions all morning, and everybody would get bored. Why don't you get your...
Yeah. Let's get it out. Okay.
I see you have 2 cases there.
So I brought. Actually, this is something I've never played for you guys. So I have the Baroque mandolin that I brought today as well. That I'll play a piece for you guys.
That's Baroque.
That's the Baroque.
Not broke.
Yes. Anyone, if the audio is not clear,
Right,
but so.
Is that mandolin new? Is that one?
So this one here is the more modern version, and I actually just got this. I was on a waiting list for a while because there's such a long list for. There's the main luthier that everyone wants to get a mandolin from. His name is Alfred Voll, and he lives in Stuttgart, Germany. And so it's because everyone wants to get one from him, and he's only one person. Typically, the waiting list is like 5 to 10 years. So thankfully, through my teacher, she has a very good relationship with him. She was able to kind of like fast track me a little bit. And so I got on the waiting list when I started, and I just got the mandolin in January. So it only took, 3.5 years. Yeah.
Cut to the chase. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. So he may have put me ahead, or I think he also had some cancellations too, so he was able to get it done in time. But before that, I was playing. Our school has several mandolins that we can use, and borrow, and so I was playing one from that collection. But this one's different because it's like, I don't know if anybody noticed, but like this darker wood is rosewood, Brazilian rosewood. And so before I was playing a maple, which also has a really good sound. It just depends on what people like. I prefer this one because it has like a richer kind of darker tone that the maple doesn't have as much. So, but both sound amazing, and yeah, this was the design I went with. Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, you guys maybe can hear the
Well,
difference.
here.
Hold on, let me tune up here.
Actually have a tuner attached there.
Yeah, it's actually, you can get these on Amazon, it's pretty cheap, but I put it on the top here, and then that's what we all use. That's the easiest way. I used to use my phone and stuff, but that's just too cumbersome to do every time, you know? Okay, so the first piece I'll be playing is it's actually written by my former teacher who I started with in San Diego. His name is Chris Aquavella, and he wrote this piece. It's called 2014. He wrote it a year later. He wrote it in 2015, but this was about the 2014 idea comes from is the year that he moved from San Diego to Germany. So he made a very similar journey that I did. The only difference is he stayed there. I'm coming back. So, but the main idea is the same. Is that like in this piece, he encapsulate the emotions that you feel and the things that you experience in moving to a new country, like, you know, learning the new language, getting used to a new culture. So everything that he wrote in this piece emotionally and just the entire idea, I totally relate with 100% because I did the same thing, but a little bit later in 2022. So it's really kind of a real personal piece that I really connect with. And so that's why I wanted to start off this concert by playing it. And yeah, it's one of my favorites to play.
the first part of that especially seemed like something out of the Twilight Zone. Is that
Totally.
reflective of your,
Yeah, it's
your
like
thoughts about how am I going to
you show up and the mist is rolling in and the rain is coming down and the streets are wet and slippery and the cobblestones. Yeah, 100%.
So some of those runs are really intricate and fast.
Yeah, it
So
gets
it'll take you a
gets
while to
pretty
get that.
fast. Yeah. It took quite a while. I've been playing this piece for several years, so yeah, I had a lot of time to really perfect those. So
Yeah.
now it's just like I don't have to think about it.
Oh,
you know?
that's really cool. So tell me about the when you went over to Germany. Did you what kind of reception did you get as far as people over there thinking that, well, here's this American interloper coming over and kind of what gives him the
Yeah, there is
How
some
did you
sort
do
of that
that?
reaction. Definitely, my professor was very encouraging along the way, really caring. Even the moment I set foot in the new school, she went out of her way to make sure that I felt like I was being welcomed into the community as one of the members, even if I was American, not European, right?
Yeah.
You're the first American, so.
Yes, in the Mandolin room, we've never had any Americans at all. So, yeah, I mean, I think anyone coming from the outside, you're always going to feel that sense of like, there's them and then there's me. I got to somehow figure out. Yeah, exactly. But I think after kind of getting over the initial like culture shock and whatnot, people were actually pretty welcoming. I mean, the school itself is a very mixed bag of people. Like, it's not mostly Germans. It's actually people from all over Europe and the world. So, because it's such a group of people who come from different places and are far away from home too, there's a lot that I could relate with different people. From like being someone who's far from home and in a new culture. Mm-hmm. So those are the people that I ended up connecting with more, were people who, like me, were kind of outsiders and weren't Germans, right? But I think.
Where are some of your friends from?
So most of my friends are from like the Balkans, so like Serbia or Macedonia or Montenegro. I mainly hang with guitarists because we get the same practice rooms to practice in for the pluck string instruments, so it's either guitarists or mandolinists, and I just always found myself hanging out with them. So those are the people that I am the closest with, but I've also met people from pretty much all over the world, like from Australia, from South America, that was a really nice part of it, to be like, I'm not the only person coming from the outside, And so that helped kind of the transition. It made it a lot easier.
Yeah. What about circulating out in the area, the culture, and everything? Were you able to get along with the language and so forth?
The language itself was tricky. Was very tricky. It took me about I started learning a year before I went. I started taking online classes, but then I got there and I realized, I don't really know anything. So then I had to kind of like start from square one. And then it took me about a year, and I had to pass an exam to get an official certificate that I was, qualified to keep studying there. Yeah. So language is tricky. I was able to get by, and you learn the phrases like to use in the city and when you go to the store and stuff, and then you feel like you know everything, and then
somebody comes along.
Exactly, and then you're like, I don't have my script, I don't have my everything I say at the grocery store or whatever, like, and so then you have to improvise. But so you learn how to improvise with the language, and but there's also like just a lot more foreigners than I thought originally when I came. Like, it's really like a lot of immigrants in Germany.
Interesting.
So that was.
What else do you have for us?
Yeah, I got another piece, so I'm gonna grab my music stand here.
I'll get out of the way.
Yeah. Okay, hopefully this is good for the mic. So the next piece I want to play is more of a classical piece that we typically are working on at the Classical Conservatory, so we have to be doing like classical stuff, We do a fair amount of modern music as well, though, like the first piece I played, but as a conservatory, you want to be working on all different eras. So like Baroque, Romantic, Classical, and then Modern, right? So this piece is a classical style piece. It's 3 movements, and it's by an Italian composer from Naples. His name is Francesco di Mayo, and he wrote a series of many pieces actually for mandolin, specifically for mandolin in that arrangement. And so he lived in the 1700s. And so in Naples at that time, the mandolin was experiencing actually a big boom. So there were people like him, and then also the more famous Raffaele Calace, who's written like 90% of the mandolin repertoire that's played in the classical sphere. All of those people lived around this time. This is when like the mandolin was experiencing a real heyday, and especially in Naples. Naples was the center for it. So this is why this guy's from Naples was writing there, because there was such a big audience for it. So yeah, so like I said, there's 3 movements. One is Comodo, the next is a Larghetto, and finally it's an Allegro. So hope you guys enjoy.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
As a musician, when you first started out, were you just basically staying still and trying to play the music? Because right now your whole body is involved. And I watch symphony players, I watch really good pro musicians.
Uh-huh.
And you can tell their whole being is into that. Is
Yeah.
that something that was discussed or talked about in your classes?
Not so much really. In fact, some people I have thought in the past thought that it maybe has interfered a little bit too much with the notes sometimes when I'm like moving too much. But my teacher now, she thinks it's a good thing because she wants me to be very musical and be in the music. But as far as
It's not very
practicing
Not
it,
very German though.
yeah, it definitely isn't very German. As far as practicing it, it's not something that's really practiced at all or really talked about as much. It's more just something I kind of always kind of done. It's just like a natural way I express it when I'm playing musically, I think. It's just kind of a natural thing that just ends up happening when I get really involved in music. So, yeah,
I think it's the Italian.
could be. That Italian.
Always the Italian. All the time. Yeah, that's the German. Your hands.
Yeah, it could be the Italian.
I was kind of having visions of a nice lasagna with a glass of red wine.
Yeah. Actually making me hungry, and I just had 2 burritos. So that's just, yeah, no. I mean, that's the picture, right? That's what we want, especially for that style and that period, right? It's kind of also very royal, very kind of pompous, in the court for the high class. That's what it was used for, right? So that adds to the picture, and I think there are also later versions of this style that they start incorporating the tremolo, which is very, very famous for the mandolin, and it takes up almost every note in the music that was written in that time. Like we're talking the early 1800s. That
Show an
people.
example. Can you show an example?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this motion, like the. Very Italian, right? And so that it got to the point where people were using it so much that they had to put a staccato marking, which is a totally different marking used for short notes, just over the notes, just to show that it's not tremoloed. Yeah. That's just like don't tremolo that note. So everyone really got a little overboard with the tremolo, but in Italy. But that's how much they love the music. So yeah.
So, begs the question, in that school, that discipline that they have there, what's their opinion of bluegrass mandolin?
It's a good question.
Or jazz.
Well, my teacher is pretty biased towards it. She really likes it because she married Mike Marshall, who is a very well-known bluegrass mandolinist. So she really loves the music, and she's very open-minded, which is not really the norm at the school. Like our associate professor, who was actually a student at Katarina, she likes bluegrass, but I think she's more kind of in the German mindset. Like, we play this certain stuff on the mandolin and the other stuff. Not as much, But my teacher, and she obviously runs the program, is very open-minded about it, so that helps.
So they don't look down their noses at it.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So she doesn't, which is a good thing. But I think other teachers in Germany might not feel the same way about it, mandolin teachers at least. But, I mean, it's important, it plays, like the bluegrass scene plays such an important role now in the mandolin world because it's even bigger than... It's more encompassing in America in the bluegrass way than it is in the classical way in Germany. It's more popular, there's more players for sure. So it's definitely something you can't ignore.
So in Germany, do they have a bluegrass version, a local folk type?
Like their bluegrass?
Yeah.
Yes, they do. And actually a lot of different cultures actually have folk music. They have different versions of the mandolin. In Germany, there were a lot pre-war. There were actually a lot of folk music mandolin bands. Like they would play German folk music with that. Then after the war, I think there was a little in the music scene. There, I think it wasn't the same. especially with folk music when it comes to Germany, right? I think there was a lot of just people wanted to maybe just step away from it, I think, because of all the connotations all the things that it had gotten tied up with. So I think that, unfortunately, was not a great thing for the mandolin, because then people weren't playing that sort of folk music on the mandolin anymore. And nowadays, there's like a lot of mandolin orchestras that will play all types. So not really so much folk music anymore for them, but more like music that's written by mandolin composers that are alive today and still writing music. And there's festivals and things where mandolin players from all over come. And the one I was just speaking about earlier, the festival, that's a big one that they do every 4 years, and it's in south of Germany. And there's mandolin orchestras coming from as far as like Australia to come and play. And it's all hosted there in Germany, because that's where, the mandolin is like officially, I think, the biggest instrument in terms of having the spot in the university, things like that.
Where was the first mandolin? I mean, way back. I mean, was there a particular...
Well, it kind of morphed from some other older instruments, but the traditional mandolin that we think about started in Italy, probably in the 1600s or so.
So it's not
And
really that old.
it's not really, it isn't really compared to other instruments. It was like there were different versions, like the lute beforehand and the Baroque mandolin, but this format, yeah, it started around the 1600s and based off the Italian style that really popularized it. Before, there were these Baroque versions that were played in even older time periods, but it wasn't, I mean, like back then it wasn't as official like the mandolin, like you would think about, like the violin was built and stuff. That's
Yeah, I always thought of Italy when I heard mandolin.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the
So
reason.
when I heard you were going to Germany to study mandolin, I'm like, what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah, exactly, right? It's funny because, yeah, I mean, they have their own also style of instrument. It's slightly different than this. This is the German style,
Yeah.
which has the biggest sound of all the mandolins that exist and has like the best tone, I would
Well,
say.
When he first started, he had an Italian mandolin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they kind of turned their nose at it. They're like,
Oh.
yeah.
They're like you gotta get a
It's not
German.
gonna work.
If you want to play here, you gotta get a
They
German.
didn't like that at all.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of that. Each culture has their own. You know
So
what
now
I'm saying?
Scalzo is not exactly a German name.
It isn't.
not.
We got zero German
You don't have any
heritage. No,
German.
we do not. We do not.
That's cool. Well, do you have anything else for us?
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you got a whole repertoire. Of it.
Yes, I do.
We got about 10 more minutes or so.
Okay, yeah, I can. So we should do 2 more. You thinking?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do 2 more. Okay,
Go
so
for
I'm
it.
gonna pull out the Baroque one now. Of course, I'm gonna play something that's a little bit more avant-garde on it. Okay, so this is the 12-string Baroque mandolin. So this stuff was played earlier, and the different forms of it. But this one has 12 strings, so each of them is a pair. So it's 6 tones, but each one is tuned in a pair. And so this one I'm borrowing from the school because I don't have my own, but it's kind of part of the whole process of studying there for your bachelor's. Like, it's kind of usually in the second year, my teachers introduces me to the instrument and like, okay, we're going to start working some repertoire on this. Obviously still focusing on the main mandolin, but she really wants each student to have like a full grasp of even the Baroque style. So it's an important thing that she wanted me to learn. And I was like at first I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like a lot to do, like a whole nother, it's kind of another instrument,
Wasn't there another
But-
instrument you played too?
I played mandola as well, which is like a bigger, tuned lower mandolin that's used in mandolin orchestras that I played for a little while. But that's pretty much similar instrument, just bigger. But this is completely different tuning. So that's, that was a little bit of a challenge to learn. And it's got a totally different sound.
Are
Yes.
the strings tuned to fifths like a mandolin?
Yeah, they are.
They are.
They are tuned to fifths. They're just different strings, and a couple of them are double. There's like 2 Gs, 2 Ds. There's an E, and then an A as well. So
Interesting.
yeah, so it's totally different, and it's got a very unique sound, very old, very kind of medieval sound, I would say. But I'm gonna play something on it that's a little, that's actually more modern, which is kind of like, yeah, it's
That's not considered.
yeah, it definitely,
That's why he's doing it out of Simon's term
yeah, no, it's all.
for his American tour.
Exactly. Well, this piece actually was also written by Chris Aquavella, my former teacher, and so he wrote this for Baroque mandolin, and he's like the only one writing modern music for the Baroque mandolin. You know, there's not a lot of people doing modern music for the Baroque mandolin, so he's one of the only people who's written something in the last, whatever, 50, 60 years for Baroque mandolin. So this is kind of a special piece. It's called Journey to Pazarzic, which is a small city in Bulgaria. And so he wrote this while he was doing a world tour for the mandolin, or a solo tour, playing mandolin music of all types. And so he wrote this along the journey. So he originally started in Boston, and kind of each city almost, I mean maybe not every city, but each maybe country, he would write a little part kind of encapsulating the feel he was feeling at that time, the emotions and things like that. And so finally, like the finished product is this journey that encompasses, most of the world, from like Boston all the way to Bulgaria. So it's a pretty, it's a pretty beautiful piece. It blends some, like all types of genres, to be honest. Like it's inspired a little bit, the rhythm is inspired a little bit by Bulgarian folk music. And then he also has some of his own influences from his American style of writing that he's put into it. So it's just a beautiful mixture of all these different styles of music.
you ever talk to your old teacher? Well, maybe he's not that old, but I mean,
Yeah.
poor choice of words. Former teacher.
Yeah. We still stay in touch. He really is excited. He's for me, and he really also likes that I keep playing his music. So because that helps him out too. So, but yeah, we still stay in touch. He's gonna be at my final concert, so we'll see each other then. He lives in the south of Germany, so we don't see him too much because it's a little far. But yeah, definitely we've still been in contact. He's sent me a couple new pieces he's been working on. I played kind of something he was working on. He had just, like last year, he had just finished this small piece for Brugman that he wanted me to play, and so yeah, so we definitely still in contact, and yeah, it's nice to have another American also in contact with in Germany.
So they used to have a mandolin camp in San Diego.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so when Noah started going at 12, and he was the youngest person in the group by about 50 years. So it was a really cool experience. For 10 years, he got to kind of hang out with a lot of great players. And anyway,
Yeah.
I needed to say that because I think that was a great experience.
A lot of good influences.
Yeah.
Well, your instructor was a prolific writer, it sounds like.
Yes. No, he's very good at
Boris has a
writing.
question.
I just have,
Yeah.
that's really interesting, the fretboard's actually on the body as well.
Exactly. It's actually movable.
There's no hole in it.
Yeah, and then here there's like it's got like this lattice work. Yeah, but there is a hole here.
That's amazing.
But it's covered with this ornamentation that he used to do.
Yeah.
So you can get as high as we can't hear.
Yeah, I mean,
Some of us.
Well,
James.
Yeah, this is probably more of a family question. I'll start with you, Mark.
Yeah.
Having a son overseas, how did you manage staying in touch, 8-hour time difference, all that kind of stuff, being able to see him, every so often?
Yeah, we were all brave going into it. It sounded like a great idea, study in Europe and, learn another language. What an experience. And he doesn't tell the whole story about how he kind of came to it, but it was kind of an interesting journey. But, it kind of all came to a head in COVID. We had to travel to Germany we didn't even know if we could get into Germany because we weren't vaccinated. And so finally, we kind of just said, we're going to go. We could get to London. Hopefully, at least he would be able to go because he had a specific purpose for being there. We may not be able to join him. Anyway, so it had to audition in person. So that was, it was a whole journey for the family. But I would say we're great about keeping in touch. He talks to his brothers almost every day when he was in Germany. And, but I don't think, we realized it's not really a college, it's not a school, it's not a campus, there's not a community there, it's a very, very small community. And so we basically just dropped him off in a city in Germany that's the rainiest city in Germany and said, learn the language, go to college, study music. And we didn't even, I would say as a parent, the mistake I made was not recognizing how lonely that experience could be. And we, only learned some of that later when he shared with us. Said, yeah, the first semester was really tough. It was really brutal because he couldn't plug into the culture. He didn't know the language. Trying to learn music. And so it wasn't. So I would say the first 6 months were a lot harder for him than we realized. I probably would have done that a little differently. We made sure we got there a couple times a year as a family. I would always go around Thanksgiving with my younger son, Cody. And then that was really cool because we get to have Thanksgiving with Katerina and Mike Marshall, and that was just a fantastic experience. So they were really excited to do that. But it was, it's harder than I thought it would be to have, to not have that contact. And I'm happy for him. He's happy to be coming home. So I guess that would be I don't know if you want to share something from your perspective.
No, yeah, I mean, it's hard being so far away. I mean, even if there are kids that go to maybe school on the East Coast, but it's obviously like still like double the length, and also it's just when you're in a different culture, it's totally different than being in America and being in another school somewhere in the country. Yeah, I mean it was very tough to adjust, and honestly, I don't even know if I 100% adjusted because I'm still like I want to come back home. You know, it's like I'm not like ready to just live in Germany now. You know what I'm saying? I've at least figured out how to manage being far away for every semester for like 3 or 4 months at a time, right?
Would you still do it based on what you know?
Yeah, I think I would. It's just I wish it wasn't so hard to do. You know what I'm saying? I wish it was a lot easier to do. But I think just from everything I've learned from it, I think it's been a net positive experience. You know, and so I don't think I would have said, okay, I just pass up on doing that. You know, I wanted to do something
It
different.
seems like, the things really worthwhile are worth working for, and that
Definitely,
sounds like
definitely was kind of like a crucible, you know, like it's like
Made him a little fearless. I mean, he's ready to jump into stuff and.
Well, speaking of that, I understand you've got an entrepreneurial streak.
Yeah, that's right.
Got
So
a
we
little business going.
yeah, so I started my 3D printing business 2 years ago, and this year we really had time along with my little brother Cody, and Nick as well, my older brother, to really scale things up, and it's gotten to the point where we have like a mini print farm in our garage. We have 7 3D printers there,
Wow.
and we're designing these diorama architectural models for hobbyists and people who collect 1/64 scale, items and figurines and stuff. So it's really kind of taken over my life a little bit. When I'm not doing music, I'm just doing that. So I'm like constantly working. Like either I'm doing music or I'm doing my business, which to me I just enjoyed. So I thought of it as a hobby, but now it's like turned into a real business. And so that's fun. I even 3D printed this pick here, actually.
All right.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
because I needed something super thin for this. Because the strings, it's like you got to be able to get through all the strings. So it's a lot of applications for that.
If you can one day go off and find the right person and you marry her and she turns around a few years later and says, he hasn't worked a day in his life, you've made it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, definitely want to do something that you enjoy and that you're not like, feel like you're working. Obviously, yeah. I mean, that's my goal, right? We'll see. We'll see how far I
See
get.
how it goes. Well, we're a little over, but if you have one more.
Yeah.
Pete?
I appreciate you, and can I ask how, you seem like an old soul because of the instrument and studying in Europe and just how you carry yourself. Can I ask how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 22.
22?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got my whole life ahead of me, pretty much, after graduating.
Amen.
Yeah.
One day
You're
at a
supposed to be listening to hip hop and rap after the speech, so we applaud you for
Yeah, I mean,
quality,
to be fair, I listen to all sorts of genres, but there's a time and place,
Well, what do you got for us now?
Okay, well, this is something for the main mandolin here. Hold on. Okay, so this is actually a pretty global journey of repertoire. So this last piece is actually written by a Japanese composer. And so he is also very well known in the mandolin community because in the 70s and 80s, he really, or maybe before that, maybe in I would say the 50s, he came into the mandolin scene. His name was Yasuo Kuwahara. And so he really, in the 50s, that's when the mandolin school was founded in the way that it is today at the university. And there was a lot of things going on for the mandolin at that time, so he was writing a lot of repertoire, specifically for the modern mandolin, the German mandolin. So he was very instrumental in kind of propagating the mandolin throughout Germany and bringing it home to his native Japan as well. So he started this movement where to this day there are like many Japanese mandolin orchestras that exist there that wouldn't have existed if he hadn't really brought the instrument and brought these amazing pieces. Some of them are a little bit more avant-garde, I have to say, though. Like, there's quite a bit of like modern like dissonance. You have to be like a musical someone who is very like studies modern music to really understand some of these pieces, because they're so technically challenging and it's, to be honest, quite harsh on the ears. Some of these pieces, but this piece I chose is actually one that is like I enjoy. It has a beautiful melody, but also has this rhythmic drive to it throughout the piece. It's called Jangara. It's based on this Japanese folk style of music, which they play this instrument called the shamisen, which is not a mandolin, but it's a plucked string instrument, and it's looks kind of like a guitar, and it's played with like a giant pick. But the interesting thing is that the pick also is supposed to hit the board here when you're playing, so you're always making like a beat when you're hitting the strings. After you hit it, it's always a beat. So everything is kind of incorporated. So it's way more rhythmic than like a mandolin or like a guitar. So he's trying here to replicate that sort of sound and that sort of style of instrument. And so I'm going to do my best to replicate it here on the modern mandolin. So yeah.
was great.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
I thought, you pulled out like 3 pages, and it turns out it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages here with
Yeah.
repeats, I think. So
10 pages total, actually.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a picture of that before you put it away.
For sure.
Thank you, Noah, for sharing your
My pleasure.
expertise, and
My
we'd
pleasure.
like to end with a little prayer. So, you guys stand. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. We pray that Jesus, you come and send your Holy Spirit upon Noah and his family, and give him the blessings and grace that he will need to finish his education in September and come back and live a full and fulfilling life in the service of you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks to see you.